Hello friend, thank you for clicking on this video. I know you could be doing a million other things right now, but you clicked on this video for some reason, so I hope to make the most of your time here. I know nowadays most videos on YouTube, they change camera angles every 4 seconds to keep your attention, and they have like a whole Hollywood team behind them. I don't have a whole Hollywood team behind me, so I'm gonna jump right into it. This video is about my upcoming online course, which is called Deepen with the Divine. And it's all about exploring what is the divine to each one of us and what is most sacred to us, and really anchoring into that spiritual connection. Because, at the end of your life, the person dies, their body's still there, the physical's still there, but there's some there's some spiritual energetic essence that leaves. And so as we're still alive, really cultivating that spiritual essence has been a huge part of my journey. And that's really what this course is about. So it begins on August 22nd and it goes for 3 months all the way to November 22nd. So there'll be 3 modules. Each one will be a month long. And this is going to be a really cool course because I'm not going to be pushing some dogmatic belief system. A lot of people have been brought up with a certain religion or a certain spiritual framework, but this course is going to be really unique because it's going to give you freedom and space to just ask the big questions about life, about spirituality, about God, spirit, the universe, whatever words you want to use. And it'll be this cool online container to really discover what's most true for you, and then to actively cultivate that, to have that deep presence and that deep sense of being within your life on a day-to-day basis. So if that sounds interesting, I have the links all down below. I'm gonna keep going within this video if you wanna keep watching to share some of my story about my journey with spirituality. I've gone through many different cycles, Kundalini awakening. I've had 3 near-death experiences. I've tried all kinds of psychedelic plant medicines. I've studied with many different spiritual teachers, and all of this has given me a lot of cool experiences and a lot of perspectives to really ponder and to give you different frameworks to consider, different questions to ask to help you clarify what's most true for you. So if that sounds interesting, please check out the links below and feel free to reach out with any questions. The early bird special for signing up ends on August 5th. So there'll be a little bit of a discount if you sign up before August 5th. And then registration will continue all the way up until August 16th. And then it will end, and then we'll begin on August 22nd. And we will have a private Facebook group. We will also meet 4 times a month for 3 months through Zoom, and all of the calls will be recorded, and so you can watch them if you miss out, if you're not available to join. And it's going to be a cool, intimate container of people that are devoted to exploring their own divine connection, asking big questions, and just really getting the most out of life. So if that sounds interesting, feel free to reach out with any questions. And online courses are really special. I took my first online course when I was in 2013. It's called Essence to Impact. And there's something really profound about having a group that's going on a journey over a couple of weeks or a couple months, and to all kind of grow and explore together. So that's my intention with this 3-month course. I'm really excited about it. And to share a little bit of my story with my own spirituality. My parents didn't really push any kind of religious framework on me at all growing up. Even though they were brought up in Christianity, they didn't push that onto me or my sister at all. So I only ever went to church on Easter and Christmas when I visited my grandparents. And to be honest, I never really vibed with church. I was just like, what's the deal here? It seems like everyone's just going through the motions. Like nobody's really hyped about this. Half the audience is falling asleep, And so I never really had much of a sense of a higher power or higher order in the universe at all. It was kind of just me doing my thing, and my friends doing their thing. None of my friends were really religious growing up or even had any kind of spirituality. I mean, it was like I had friends that were Jewish, a few of my friends might have went to church, but it didn't seem like it was a part of life at all. It was like this side project thing that people do just to like, please their parents. And so in high school, when I got into philosophy, I actually basically became an atheist, because to me, the arguments that atheism gives were pretty compelling. They talk about how religion has caused more wars than like anything else in the world. And they talk about how all different religions have all these, different things that contradict each other. And I'm like, yeah, like this just makes more sense that there's just kind of like a meaningless universe that we happen to exist in. And we're just like somehow here miraculously. So that resonated with me for a while. And I went deep into a lot of these atheist philosophies like Richard Dawkins and stuff. And then around that same time, I tried psilocybin mushrooms for the first time. And that really opened my eyes to a lot of things. And it was my first real like profound spiritual experience. And that got me asking a lot more questions like, wow, like what is the intelligence of Earth and how is that happening? And like I started listening to Terence McKenna and going down all those rabbit holes, listening to Alan Watts. And that sparked a lot of new questions and new gears turning in my mind. But I still never really felt connected to talk like the concept of God or, a higher order. It was just kind of like the universe. And then I went on a trip at Penn State my freshman year to study with Native Americans in northern Minnesota. And this was really a life-changing experience for me, because I got to see what like a true spirituality that's like alive and pulsing feels like. Like I fasted for the first time in my life, which has been a really profound spiritual practice over my whole last 12 years. So I fasted, and then we did a sweat lodge ceremony. So like 20 people squeezed into this, more like 30 people squeezed into this tiny sweat lodge, and it's pitch black. And then these Native American shamans who have been doing their thing as medicine men for like 50 years, they start playing their drums full power, and just like, it was like resuscitating my whole being. And I was like, wow, like there is something to this. Like these people are not fucking around. These people are not just going through the motions. Like there's something really to this. And that like shook me to the core. And just learning about these like unbroken traditions and how literally every indigenous culture around the world, I mean, many of them sadly have been extinct, but there's still like 5,000 or so intact indigenous cultures that have never really changed their traditions too much. And every single one of these cultures has some sort of spiritual beliefs. They believe in some spiritual world beyond just like this physical reality. So that to me is like, that kind of like debunked all these atheist white dudes who are like, well, everything's just science and molecules, and love doesn't really exist because it's just molecules in your brain. And I'm like, okay, you guys, I think, have just like lost your spiritual connection. And these indigenous cultures really have a lot more knowledge, in my opinion. So that was a big awakening for me, going and studying with the Anishinaabe people up in Minnesota. And so following that, I went on a bike trip across America. And this was a 6-month trip from east to west coast. Every single day was a new circumstance, new part of the country. And it was like every day we were experiencing what are called synchronicities, just like coincidences that you couldn't possibly imagine. Like the chances of them happening are like 1 in a trillion. And it was like this would happen to us like every single day. And I'm like, how? There's got to be something, some greater force or some higher order that's helping all of these things to line up. Like this is not just molecules randomly bouncing into each other. You know what I'm saying? And so that was another piece of the puzzle that kind of clicked for me, like there is something else to this world. But even so, my friend Will on the trip would often use the word God, and it just like always, I had resistance to that word because for whatever reason, it was just like did not resonate with me. It seemed like it was just a joke, like, is there really this dude up in the sky judging me and whatnot? Like, it just never resonated for me. But then at the very end of the bike trip, I got hit by a car that was going like 55 miles an hour, just whacked into the back of my bicycle. I had a full-blown near-death experience. I was completely convinced that I was gonna die. It like took me by shock. And I literally just laid back and just melted into the most peaceful white light that went on forever. It was just like an ocean of peace. And that lasted for about a minute. And then I opened my eyes again, and it was just like a movie. Everything was in slow motion. My friend Charlie was running over. And I was like, dude, this is it. Like, tell everyone I love them. I'm done. I really expected to die. But sure enough, I looked down at my toes. I could still wiggle my toes. And I was like, oh shit, maybe I'm gonna survive. And so I started like just visualizing, sending healing energy throughout my body. And as my friends came over to me, I was like, don't freak out, just send me good vibes. And sure enough, within like 10 minutes, the paramedics were there. I was cracking jokes, even though I basically couldn't move and was like paralyzed on the ground. But that experience, once again, showed me that there's some kind of transcendent realm beyond this one. And I had a direct experience of it. And so to zoom out back into this course coming up that I'm sharing all these stories related to, a big part of what I want this course to be is like, imagine that you never read anything about spirituality or religion, and to just try to develop your own spirituality based on your direct experiences. So that's kind of an exercise that we're going to explore within the course that I'm excited about. So anyway, I had this very direct experience of some kind of transcendent realm, and that once again just like opened my eyes to what's possible out there. So as I continued on my journey, I read the book called The Power of Now, which is by Eckhart Tolle, and we're actually going to explore this book a little bit within the Deepen with the Divine course, because this book had such a profound impact on me and showed me the importance of just being present and living in this now moment and not getting so dragged out by the future and not being so, thinking about the past, but just being laser focused on the present. And so this book just has a lot of really simple teachings about how to cultivate that presence within you and to connect to this spiritual energy that transcends this physical dimension that we live in. So if you're into the power of now, we're definitely going to dive into that. And if you're not, this book is just phenomenal. And Eckhart Tolle, he's really synthesizing a lot of different teachings from Taoism, Buddhism. But that book is just a really big game changer. So as my journey continued, and I read that book in about 2009, but I've reread it almost like every year for the past 15 or so years, or listened to the audiobook because it's just that powerful. So then as my journey continued, I dove into more plant medicine ceremonies. I've done 15 ayahuasca ceremonies between the years 2011 and 2015. And every single one of those was like a whole lifetime of like spiritual teachings and profound experiences. But around the year 2015, I kind of got the message to just take a big break from taking these external intense medicines. And I basically haven't done any large amount of psychedelics for about 7 or 8 years now. I've done like a little bit of microdosing here and there, but my whole practice is how can I tap into these spiritual realms without needing these external substances. And so I've unlocked a tremendous amount of practices and things that work for me that help me to access these realms, because ultimately what these plant medicines do is they open up these other dimensions that are all like chilling right here all the time pretty much. But we have to learn how to cultivate that subtle awareness and subtle energy to be more tuned into it. That's kind of my perspective on it. So as my journey continued, I took a break from plant medicines, and around end of 2014, I went through an intense breakup. I had been in a partnership for about a year and a half, and that was kind of like a big dark night of the soul for me, because I was just really struggling and really kind of like putting the puzzle pieces of my life back together after this breakup. And that's when I first found Christian music. And so this course isn't going to be like focused on Christianity. In fact, I think a lot of people are healing from Christianity. But for me, just listening to Christian music was like a big puzzle piece for me, because something that I feel most mainstream Americans are lacking is like this energy of like praising the vastness of life. Like whatever you want to call it, whether you just want to call it nature, whether you just want to call it Buddha, God, whatever, there's this energy of just like, holy shit, like, thank you. Like, this is an incredible energy to be connected to. And I felt like these Christian people, like they're so hardcore in their belief that they're just like giving it all, giving that full like praise, hallelujah, life is beautiful energy. And that really resonated with me. And that was the same thing that I found with a lot of the Native American teachings. Like they're so dedicated, they're so into it. It's not a charade, it's not like a freaking show. It's like this is their truth, and there's such power in that. There's such conviction in that. And so listening to Christian music was a huge puzzle piece for me. And basically, there's a lot of things that I personally disagree with in mainstream Christianity. But one of my things I love to try and do is to just kind of like, it's like a famous Bruce Lee quote. It says, take what is useful, discard what is non-useful, and just, take what you resonate with. And so when I listen to Christian music, I'll just kind of like change the lyrics in my head, or just kind of like create my own interpretation of whatever they're saying. And I feel like it's possible to do that with a lot of different things. So that's been a huge part of my journey. And I really love devotional music from pretty much any culture. Like Hindu devotional music is beautiful. I've been to hundreds of kirtans and Hare Krishna devotional things. And so within this course, another thing is I'll be sharing a lot of different songs that have really spoken to me in my journey that will hopefully inspire you, or just maybe catalyze some new thoughts in your world. I have like a massive database of music that has really, I call it healing spiritual music. There's like 800 songs in that playlist. So yeah, music has been a huge part of my journey, and that will definitely be a part of this course. And so yeah, as my journey continued on, some of you probably know some of my story of having type 1 diabetes. But long story short, I had an intense near-death experience, my third near-death experience, in the end of 2018. And that was just absolutely horrific and just like unfathomably painful. Like I'm smiling about it, but like I'll tell you, it was just absolutely awful. And so after making it through that experience, I'm like, whatever force it is that brought me through that experience, from just like absolute pinnacle of suffering to this state of relative peace that I experience on a daily basis and gratitude, Like, I just am so thankful and grateful to that force. Whether I want to call it the universe, whether I want to call it God, angels, maybe I just want to call it science and doctors who thankfully helped save my life. But like, I just have so much gratitude that I just want to like pour it out for the rest of my life to that universal energy. And that is really kind of like a backbone of my spiritual practice, of just wanting to deepen into that truth and to kind of get all the distractions out of the way so that I can live from that state of gratitude and joy and peace that I know is possible. So that was a huge extra puzzle piece of my journey. And one other puzzle piece that I'll share before closing up this video is this book that I found actually with my partner that I went through the breakup with in 2014. She turned me on to this book, which is like a very unknown book. I actually had to like go to the ends of the earth to find an extra copy of it, because there's probably like 100 copies ever printed of it. But the gist of it is called it's a channeling. It's supposedly a channeled book from this energy called Divine Mother. And I'd never heard of this concept of Divine Mother before, but it was a huge puzzle piece for me, because I guess unconsciously or semi-consciously, I had this concept that God was like this energy that was just judging and like really strict and really like if God did exist, it was kind of like this very strict energy, almost like a strict father figure energy. And I think a lot of traditions kind of have that sort of mythic archetype about God. But this book was like the Divine Mother of like Mother Goddess, this force of just endless love and compassion that will just like completely give you a hug no matter what you've done or what, because it just like, it knows that whatever you did, it was all because of this pain that you had inside you. And it just like soothes every single fiber of your being. And that's what I felt as I was reading this book, and I was just like allowing this Divine Mother energy to connect with me. And like one of the things of the book is just like, my child, like sleep as long as you want. Sleep longer than you think you should. Let go of every story that's going to tell you to not sleep. I mean, obviously we have responsibilities and stuff, but when you're able to just let yourself sleep, and don't be hard on yourself for letting yourself sleep. And when I was in this phase of my life, I was like on tour doing all these events, and I was like grind mode all the time. I'd wake up and do sprints every single day. And reading this book was like, holy shit, I can like chill out for a second. Like Divine Mother has got my back. Like, this is cool. And that book just really has been huge for me. I mean, I don't resonate with all of it now that I look back on it, but this is the whole thing. It's like, take what you resonate with and don't take what you don't resonate with. Like, it should be that easy, in my opinion. But yeah, so that is something else we'll explore in this 3-month course, is these different kind of like aspects of the divine. Like maybe there is this aspect that's more motherly, and there's other aspect that's more masculine, and kind of like this one's more like strict and standardized, and this one's more just like go with the flow. And it's up to each of us to cultivate that relationship with all these different, aspects of the divine. So to me, it's just such a fun thing to explore. It's such a fascinating thing to explore. And if we can just let go of that firm grip of like, this is how it is, this is what I was taught, then life just becomes this beautiful mystery to explore. And that's honestly one of my favorite terms for the divine, which a lot of Native American traditions talk about, is great mystery. it's just like we can't understand it. It's impossible to fully understand it, but we can try our best to navigate it in a mindful and heartful way. So embracing the great mystery, exploring the great mystery is something that we're going to do in this course. So I'm really excited about it. And if it sounds interesting, feel free to reach out with any questions. Yeah, thanks for watching this video. If you're still here, it seems like you probably resonate with this message. So thank you for tuning in. And once again, the early bird special ends on August 5th. You'll save a little bit of money. Otherwise, registration ends on August 16th. And then the 3-month journey officially begins on August 22nd, goes all the way to November 22nd. And it's going to be a magical mystery ride. So thank you for tuning in. I'll see you in the future. Peace.